This conflict, real estate billionaire Donald Trump saying to Charles Payne, our administration was totally blindsided.
I believe that I would probably get along with Putin. I think we might even have a decent relationship. But, you know, if you look at Putin and Obama, they're two people that just don't get along, and it's not good.
Well,
again, when he leaves here and then does what he did, it's sort of incredible. We were blindsided. Our administration was totally blindsided.
With me now, KT McFarland, former Reagan Defense Department Assistant Secretary. KT, so glad to have you with us on these matters. What is your first thought, Trump aside, I'll get back to that in a minute, on Russia, its strategy, and basically saying, we don't really care what you do, U.S., we're not doing it with you?
Well, the Russians have just run the table, right? The Russians have just totally outsmarted and outfoxed Obama at every step. And it's a lot more than just, well, they were so much smarter, cleverer. The Russians are now in a position where they're going to take over the Middle East. Because, think about it, Monday, they go to the UN and they say, America, this mess in Syria is all your fault. And by the way, your anti-ISIS coalition is a fiasco and it's a joke. On Tuesday, the Russians announced their alliance, which is Russia, Iran, Iraq, Syria. On Wednesday, they send a 3-star general, goes into the American embassy in Baghdad and says, you got an hour to get out of Syria. The bombs are starting. We're going to drop bombs.
Basically barking orders at the U.S.
Barking orders at a young U.S. defense attaché. That's not just like a diplomatic slap in the face. That's like a punch to the jaw. So the Russians are telling us, you get out. We're here to stay. We're ramping up. We're putting our own military forces. And if you want to be here, fine, but we might get you.
Okay, so KT, I am assuming Russia is doing this because the U.S. did put sanctions on Russia as punishment for Crimea, punishment for Ukraine. So is this Russia's way of saying, okay, fine, you tried to put us in the corner, you tried to marginalize us. Guess what? Not only are we not going to be marginalized, we're going to be in an area that is key for you, U.S., and for your safety.
And for the world economy. I think the Russians are, Putin, I mean, he's just fascinating to watch, right? I think he's quite predictable. He's trying to restore Russian greatness. Russia used to be the major outside power in the Middle East until the early 1970s. Then we replaced them. Putin wants that back. We used to be the major power. We won the Cold War. Putin wants that war back. He wants to win.
I was just going to ask you, do you think he is provoking a Cold War?
Oh, I think he's in a Cold War. I don't think he ever thought the Cold War ended. He didn't think we lost that we won the Cold War and he lost. He thought, well, maybe we're a little bit behind, but we're catching up now. Now, here's what I'm watching, okay? Several things. One, is there going to be an incident in the Middle East? I mean, the Russians have told us, get out of the way, we're here. We're now flying in the same airspace, U.S., Russian aircraft.
I feel like we're already in a proxy war.
What happens if somebody shoots down an American aircraft or an American drone? The Russians can come and say, oh, look, you know, it's an accident. We didn't really mean it. We told you guys we were going to be operating there. You should have gotten out of the way. What is our response then? Who knows? The other thing is, if I'm going to pick your pocket, Deirdre, I'm not going to tell you which pocket I'm picking. I'm going to tell you to look over there. What happens if the Russians are now trying to do something in Ukraine? I think this is their golden opportunity. Europe is distracted economically and by the refugees.
By the migrants,
Yeah, by the migrants. We're distracted by the Middle East. This would be an opportune time for Russia to make a move in eastern Ukraine.
So in this particular way, precisely, you agree with Donald Trump, it seems like, in that the Obama administration essentially got scooped.
Totally blindsided, but I think willful blindness. President Obama personally just thinks that somehow, if America steps back from a leadership role in the world, that its global community is going to rise forth and world peace will ensue. Putin looks at this and says, you guys want to step back? Fine, I'm filling that vacuum.
KT, so glad you're here. KT McFarland joining me there, former Reagan Defense Department Assistant Secretary.